Well, good morning, everyone. Here we are for another episode of NFL Fantasy Matchup. Bye weeks continue, all of those different things. Jed, Jim, good morning, everyone. And hey, the one thing before we start, my bets the last couple of days. I mean, with the Pittsburgh game, didn't go well with the Pittsburgh Steelers and all this, and the Kansas City Chiefs game. I didn't win anything. I didn't win anything at all. So good thing I did win $120 in the Bears game, but other than that, I lost a good $50 of it into those two games.
That's good. You can't win every week, Tommy. You have to have like realistic expectations. I always tell people this actually. For me, whenever I start betting on a season, I always set a goal for the end of the season. So like, let's say you start with $100 and your goal is to have $1,000 by the end of the season. You have to have something you're working towards because you don't want to have your expectations to be like, oh, I'm going to win millions off of this. Have reasonable expectations and then work your way toward it. It's just like investing. It's very similar to investing.
Yeah. And I've learned sometimes you can't always take big risks. Like this past week, I was just happy to have Kareem Hunt score a touchdown, and that's what I was satisfied with because I wasn't sure if I trusted anybody else. And that was fine with me. So,
yeah. Now, at the same time, I was really hoping with Rashee Rice gone, Travis Kelce would at least score one touchdown. That's all I was hoping for. Now, he got the yards, but he didn't get the touchdown. And I'm sorry, I just need the touchdown. That's all I needed.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, like he threw for 300 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns. They had 3 chances when they were in the red zone to score, and they didn't hit on any of those chances. And so I think they're still just trying to figure out what life is going to be like without Rashee Rice.
No, that really messed me up because I had a parlay that included Xavier Worthy, which I got. He scored his TD, but then it included Mahomes with one passing touchdown or more. And he didn't get it. So I was like,
no, because you just assume if Xavier Worthy is going to score a touchdown, or Travis
would be exactly
it's going to come from. All you needed was one throw, right?
Exactly.
But you can tell, like, they've just not been, like, there. He doesn't throw those long bombs anymore. He's been kind of doing these, like, short passes to his receivers down the middle.
But you know what? As far as football is concerned, not fantasy, they're figuring out how to win week to week. And remember last year, they did not have a great regular season. They turned things on, but they're following the same blueprint. It's like they're figuring out their offense. They're figuring out different ways they can score. They're adjusting to the injuries. But I feel like that team they know how to. Yeah, I think it comes down to Andy Reid to me. He can just scheme an offense to score against a defense almost any time.
That's why, I don't know where Xavier Worthy is going to be for them this season, but Juju Smith-Schuster might be a decent pickup if you're at least looking for a receiver.
Oh, yeah, I jumped on him, and several people beat me out. Actually, in our 1K league, someone beat me out for him, but I think he's going to be a really good pickup if you need a wide receiver.
Oh, my gosh. Remember, this is the guy that the Chiefs cut. 7 catches for 130 yards. They're picking off this guy from the scrap heap, and look at also Kareem Hunt, 27 carries for 102 yards. Excellent. They know how to use these players and figure out how to utilize them, especially if they're familiar with the system.
Yeah, I missed the Kareem Hunt one. I wish I had jumped on that one. I thought, in my mind, I was like, the guy has to be too old, but they obviously signed him for a reason. So.
Tom, you picked him up in a couple leagues, didn't you?
I've been picking up Kareem Hunt a lot. And the only reason is, look, he didn't do that bad over in Cleveland. He was sharing it with Nick Chubbs. And then from that point on, he got cuts, but he still had stuff in the tank. It wasn't like a Dalvin Cook that when you watch him, he says, wow, he is slow. But he still was able to do it, and he's familiar with the Chiefs system. Yeah. Hey, on the other end, and the late game, I'm not sure how many of you guys stayed up for it. Dallas Cowboys against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, Ezekiel Elliott is not a thing. But Daldo, 2 touchdowns. What do you guys think about him?
Yeah, at least the offense was moving. You kind of expected Dallas to play a little bit better. So that was good to see. And that's you're talking about the wide receiver, right? The wide receiver. The running back. Yeah, I was looking at that wide receiver that came in, the number
Tolbert,
2 wide receiver. Yeah, Tolbert.
Touchdowns.
Tolbert was all over the place. And he was one guy I thought, man, it's because what's his name got hurt, the long bomb drag.
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks got hurt, and so then Tolbert came in. So that was definitely intriguing. But again, it was against Pittsburgh, so that's the only thing. Although Pittsburgh's defense has been pretty good.
Tobert's a good addition. He's got three touchdowns in the last couple of games. He has no competition with Brandon Cooks, right? Actually, Dallas has actually got a pretty good offense. If Daldo can actually be the effective runner, because I think Elliott is just too slow. He's too old to do anything of value for that offense.
Yeah. Jim, what do you think of CD Lamb? 5 catches, 62 yards, no touchdown. I actually thought he would at least get 1 touchdown. I was really hoping for CD Lamb to get 1 touchdown.
And he got mad at, did you guys see him on the sidelines? So apparently on the sidelines, he was yelling at Dak Prescott. And what he was yelling was subpar passes. He was saying subpar passes.
Yeah, hey, Dak Prescott, for a guy who was earning a lot of money, there was a couple throws, like the one that CD Lamb got mad. He really underthrew him. So I was very surprised at how bad that throw was.
Yeah. I don't think Mike McCarthy's going to stay around for the next year or so. I think they're going to look for a new coach. You never know. Maybe Bill Belichick is going to be the person they bring in.
Yeah. Hey, on the Pittsburgh side, a lot of times, the guy that I just continue to get disappointed with since his rookie year, Najee Harris. For a guy that big, 14 carries, 42 yards, he just doesn't get a lot of the red line, all of that stuff. I just get red zone, all of that stuff. I just get really disappointed by it.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching him again. Yeah. I had a bet on him for a touchdown, and I'm very disappointed.
No. But here's my thing is, you would think that at least maybe one of the 2 running backs would do pretty good, but Warren's not even out there anymore, so you're relying entirely on Harris. And I think the fact that Justin Fields is running as well, too, it's taking away a lot of opportunities. I do think, though, I don't know if you guys get this, I think in the next 2 weeks, we're going to see a change from Justin Fields back to Russell Wilson. I think when Russell Wilson is healthy enough, and I think starting this week he will be, I think he's going to be the new starting quarterback.
Yeah, but my argument with Justin Fields is, as bad as sometimes he looks, he does always, it's like the Bears. He has certain portions of the game where he looked pretty good, but he is winning for them. And so while he's winning for them, do they just stay with him? That's the only thing I would argue in favor of Justin Fields.
I want them to stay, because then the Bears get a better draft pick. They at least get a 4th rounder out of it. But there's all these speculations that they're going to bench him before they reach that goal, so they don't have to give that pick to the Bears.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what a lot of times what stats you guys look at. One of the stats I've been looking at is yards given up in fantasy. So a lot of times I'll look at the secondary. Hey, what's their run defense? What's their pass defense? And in regards to fantasy. So there are stats out there that I've been looking at is who is scoring a lot in terms of secondary and all of that stuff. And so that helped me figure out which parlay game I want to look at.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Hey, tonight's 49er and Seahawks. Jed, talk to me about that game.
That should be a good game, actually. I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, I was disappointed. Seattle's coming off of a loss, right? Actually, both teams coming off of a loss. So Seattle, though, lost to the Giants at home. That was a real shock to me. I thought for sure Seattle was going to win that game. So expecting a bounce back performance. San Francisco, as you guys remember, lost in the last minute to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. So I think they're both going to be coming in hot. I'm hoping for a lot of scoring. Right now, San Francisco is a 3.5-point favorite at Seattle, which tells you that Vegas really thinks that San Francisco is going to win this game, which probably I think is right.
Yeah. I think Kenneth, I'm guessing they're going to try to give more running opportunities for Kenneth Walker this week. He only had 5 opportunities this past week, and I know the coach came out and just said they want to be more intentional about feeding the ball to Kenneth Walker. So I think even from a betting perspective, if I were to place a bet, I can see him at least scoring 1 touchdown, at least having 50 or 75 yards of rushing as well, too.
You know, that's interesting. We'll have to see, because they said that, but Seattle has been one of the teams that has been throwing it a ton.
Yeah.
So Geno Smith, he's gotten over 300 yards, and I forget how many out of the last 5 games, but he has been throwing a ton. So it'll be interesting if that's true. The guy I like is DK Metcalf. I just think he's been dominating this year. He hasn't gotten as many touchdowns, but that's the guy that I like.
Yeah. And also remember who Kenneth Walker is going against. Fred Warner is a great linebacker, especially against the run. And so when you're going against Fred Warner, that's where I'm really concerned. So I do like a DK Metcalf to come and do well as Enigma. A lot of times I'm really looking forward to him. I think he'll have a decent game. I think Metcalf will definitely have a better game as well, too. But Jordan Mason, I actually anticipate he'll probably end up getting a touchdown. That's what I would really bet against. With 49ers winning, they've struggled a little bit, but I would like to see a Jordan Mason score a touchdown.
Yeah, he didn't score last week, which I was, again, disappointed by, but I would expect this week, again, they should be feeding him the ball, and at least a goal line carry should get him a touchdown.
Yeah. I thought Fred Warner was injured, but it did say that he was removed from the injury report. He did have an ankle injury at the game this past week. You know who actually is pretty good consistently? I'm looking at his stats right now. Tyler Lockett the last couple games. 9 fantasy points. I mean, if you need, especially this week with a lot of players starting to be out, Tyler Lockett might be somebody that you might want to look at as well, too, to playing because he's got 9 points the last couple of weeks.
Now, let me ask you guys a quick question. Is Ayuk, Samuel, he keeps going back and forth. You put in Jennings in there. Who do you think is the guy is the main focus? Is it Deebo Samuel or is it Ayuk? Or, hey, look, every single week is going to be a little bit different.
Actually, okay, so before I answer that, Tom, you spent a lot of money on Jawan Jennings. Do you regret that now?
No, because a lot of times you never know when that Deebo Samuel will go out. Now, the very fact that I spent money on Jennings meant that I couldn't spend money on Tank Bigsby. So I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'd rather have a Tank Bigsby than I would have Jawan Jennings. That's the only thing.
How much did you spend on Jennings? Do you remember?
35.
Okay, so I spent the same amount for Tank Bigsby this week, 35.
Yeah, that's a good pickup. Tank Bigsby, good pickup. Also, another Tank Dell. With Nico Collins out, I'm expecting to see finally some return on that Tank Dell pick, so we'll see.
I actually can see Ayuk getting better. I think he came on. I can see even this past week when against Arizona, they were intentional about making sure that Ayuk got the ball. So I think they're trying to get him involved early on. And I mean, I think they're all starting to. I mean, I think they're going to have a rebound game because they were embarrassed against Arizona this past week. And my guess is a lot of critics came down on them. So I would think that they're going to come out pretty strong in Seattle this week.
Yeah. But I would say Deebo Samuel is a frustrating person to own.
Yeah.
There are days where he just gets a lot of points. But there are days it just drives you crazy.
Yeah. Kittle is actually a pretty good tight end this year. I would imagine if you had Kittle as your tight end, you're pretty solid. And you're getting some decent fantasy points from that position right now.
Oh, did you guys see my trade in our 1K league? I picked up, was it McBride?
Trey McBride? Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. So I was really...
Jed, did you see who's number 1 in our 1K league?
Yes, I was going to say congratulations to Jimmy, who's now number 1 in our league. And Tommy, you are coming up. I think you squeaked up to 6th or 7th. So, and I'm sitting in, I think, 4th. So we're all doing pretty well. We got to keep moving our way up.
Yeah, we got to prove ourselves to those guys.
Yeah.
Well, but remember, look how bad Jimmy has a really good team. I was taking a look at the 2 guys that I picked up as number 1 and number 2 has not hit for me, which is Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, and on number 3 was Sam Laporta. When you have those 3 guys and they're just not performing well, it just really stands out.
Yeah, I think
Jacobs hasn't been bad.
Yeah, I think Hubbard has really saved you the last few weeks, and I bet you picked him up on the waiver wire.
Yeah, the only problem I have with Josh Jacobs, right? Yeah, I think a lot of times he's getting there. He'll get the touchdowns. The yardage isn't there that I thought would be higher. I was hoping for more consistent 100-yard games.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. A lot of short runs. I mean, if you watch the Green Bay game, most of their chunkage, most of the yardage is picked up by their receivers. That's who's picking up between Jaden Reed, Wicks, whoever is out there, that's who's picking up their yards. Oh, even Tucker Kraft. Who the heck would think Tucker Kraft would be such a good receiver for them?
I think Garrett Wilson, that's really been the reason you've been out, Tommy. He has not performed up to what anybody expected. The Jets of this, it'll be interesting with the Jets now with the firing of their head coach. What does that mean? And apparently the offensive coordinator was about to be either fired or like his play calling duties were about to be removed. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens to that offense because both Garrett Wilson as well as Breece Hall have not if you drafted either of those guys, you have not gotten the return you really needed out of it. So we'll see what happens.
Jed, nothing was going to happen with Nathaniel Hackett because Aaron Rodgers controls everything. As much as he says he had nothing to do with Saleh's firing, all right, he does have a strong influence.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I do think that with New York, with the firing, though, I can see Brees Hall actually doing better because he's been doing this timeshare with Braylon Allen. And I actually can see them really focusing more around Brees Hall as that true workhorse. So for me, if I had an opportunity to pick up Brees Hall right now, I would actually do it.
Yeah. And just so you know, a lot of times talks have stalled for Devontae Adams in light of the Saleh firing under the New York Jets, as well as David Carr's injury over in New Orleans. And so a lot of times, was that
Derek Carr from New Orleans?
Derek Carr over in New Orleans. And so a lot of times Devontae Adams will not play again this Sunday, hoping for a trade. But let's see what happens. I still believe that he'll end up at the Jets, and that's disappointing for me because I own a lot of Garrett Wilson.
By the way, you mentioned Derek Carr being out in New Orleans. They're playing Tampa Bay this week. They're going to start Spencer Rattler, former OU Sooner quarterback, rookie quarterback. So if you're looking for a game there, Tampa Bay is only a 3.5-point favorite because it's in New Orleans. But I'd be all over that game. I think Tampa Bay is going to really hurt the Duke quarterback.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of New Orleans as well too, Kamara did not participate in Wednesday's walkthrough due to hip and hand injuries. And that was always my concern with Alvin Kamara. He started out really well for the first 3 weeks. Because of his age, he cannot seem to stay healthy. That's one of the reasons why I traded him. Now, I was regretting trading him, but yet at the same time, that was always the risk with Alvin Kamara.
Well, just in New Orleans in general, I think we've seen the first 2 weeks were a mirage for New Orleans. So far, they are not looking like that team they were the first 2 weeks. So that was my biggest concern.
You never know. Spencer Rattler's the quarterback. Remember, he was pretty good in college.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll have some decent games. I just think in my mind, like first game coming in, Tampa's got a decent defense. They're going to throw a lot of different looks at the guy. It's a lot to ask him to come out and beat a Tampa Bay, in my opinion.
Yeah. By the way, if you guys have Amazon Prime, yesterday on the plane I was watching. So Eli Manning has this show called Eli Manning Presents the Undercovers, and it's actually a really good show. And this week it was what do you call it? He was a quarterback for Tampa Bay.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield was dressed up as a fan.
Oh,
and he
nice.
went with a bunch of super fans doing a tour of the Tampa Bay Stadium.
Oh, I saw that.
That was pretty good.
I saw it on TikTok. I didn't see the episode.
It was actually really good. I loved it.
Yeah, I saw the cuts because it was really cute. They had like he was with the fans dressed up as a fan, but then one of the fans was talking about how much she loves Baker Mayfield. And he's like right there. I thought that was very.
And then he was making fun of Baker Mayfield and saying he's no Tom Brady. That guy needs to be better than Tom. It was actually really good. I enjoyed watching it. It was good.
Jim, with that show, where is it found?
It's on Amazon Prime. It's called The Undercovers. Yeah, it's good.
Got it. Hey, let's go over one game as well too. Indianapolis Colts against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jim, Joe Flacco. What do you think of him?
My guess is that Anthony Richardson's going to go for one more week on the IR. You're going to lose Pittman, I think, for at least 2 or 3 games, right? So now then your receivers are primarily Josh Downs and
Alec Pierce.
Right. And so the question then becomes who's going to be the number 1 receiver. I do think it's going to be Josh Downs. But
I don't know. Jimmy tried to trade me for him today.
Yeah. Did you see that for Tyrone Tracy? Tyrone Tracy?
I did.
I actually am betting he's going to be number 1, but I do think Pierce had 3 touchdowns, and it seems like Joe Flacco trusts him, right? The players are better fantasy-wise with Joe Flacco than with Richardson. And I think a lot of times people they have to adjust to these running quarterbacks.
Richardson has been a real disappointment this year. I think he's someone you actually could even consider dropping. He has just not performed the same. And exactly what you said, Jimmy, all the other skill players in Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor included, they all have been hurt by Richardson's poor play. The fact that Joe Flacco could come in and then all of a sudden they all look better just shows you. It's similar to the situation in Carolina. You switch the quarterback out, all of a sudden the wide receivers and running backs start producing. So it's a really difficult situation because even if Downs or Pierce does really well this week, what happens when Richardson comes back? That's the issue. So it's a
it's the resurgence of the old white quarterbacks. The old Flacco. I mean, those guys are accurate. They're not mobile, but boy, can they get those balls to the receivers?
Well, I don't know if you guys believe this is true. Remember, he played in Cleveland last year. And the word out there, or at least the word out there, is that the reason why they didn't resign him, even though they liked him, is because Deshaun Watson saw him as a threat. And so as long as Joe Flacco was there was always going to be a quarterback competition. So that's one of the reasons why they didn't resign him last year.
That was a total mistake now, right? You look at what's happening. Deshaun Watson looks horrible, and Cleveland is stuck. But I have to admit, I do not like Cleveland, so there's a part of me that has some joy out of that. But what I was going to say is I heard this really good argument because this year passing stats are down. Tommy, you were talking about looking at secondaries. Passing stats are down across the board. Quarterback play is down across the board in the NFL. There's been the argument made, though, that the reason is because it's the youngest average age of starting quarterbacks in the NFL that they've had in the past 20 or 30 years. So the fact that we have all these young quarterbacks who don't know what they're doing is why someone like a Joe Flacco could come in and suddenly look better than the young 20-something quarterback. So I think it's a pretty interesting argument and maybe a good one.
Yeah. Hey, when you guys were looking at the waiver wires this week, who was the one guy that you guys were looking at?
Tank Bigsby. I think Bigsby and Downs were the two players that I was targeting. The other person, I did find Cal Pitts in the number of these waiver wires, so I picked him up in a couple of leagues as well, too.
Yeah. One other person to look at in terms of waiver wire, Jalen Wright, with Devon Achane out with a concussion. Now, even though they have a bye week, a lot of times, look at Jalen Wright. He's not as fast as Achane, but at the same time, a lot of times, I think he's a better option to Mostert at this point.
Tom, I saw you picked him up. So the reason why I didn't say Jalen Wright is because I was hoping that people would miss him because he's not playing this week. And so I can pick him up next week because I wanted Josh Downs and I wanted Tank Bigsby, and I was hoping no one was going to pay attention to Jalen Wright because I actually think that Jalen Wright's actually a pretty decent pickup.
Well, I don't know. For me, Miami, it was a nice win for them. I didn't expect them to play as well as they did this past week, and you did see a little resurgence. I've got, Tyreek Hill sitting on my bench basically until they figure things out. So it's nice to see a little bit more offense, but I just honestly am a little bit suspect. Just don't know if that's really going to continue. For me, I was looking at again, watching Carolina, I feel like they're getting better and better. So that the wide receiver, Xavier Leggett or something, that's a decent one to look at. And then Roshan Johnson, for Chicago, he's available out there and he's starting to get more play. I mean, so not a bad pickup.
He's the goal line guy for those guys, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, if you really want, let's say 3 carries for 4 yards and 2 touchdowns, he's great.
Hey, I'll take that, man. That's like 15, 16 points a week. I'll take that.
Yeah. Remember, I don't remember. I wish I had that stat. Jed, it goes back for us being prepared. There was this old guy on Carolina. I'm not sure if you remember. That guy who always got the goal line carries. It's not Natron Means, but he always...
No, he was Tampa Bay.
No, that was Tampa Bay.
No.
Yeah. African-American guy, he would get 3 carries for 5 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I would just always have him sitting there on my bench, and I loved him. I forget. I will figure out what his name is. I completely forgot his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I know exactly who you're talking about. I was just trying to look up if I could find the name. Right? Yeah.
And he played for Carolina, and he will always just sit there on the goal line. Yeah. I loved him. Yeah. Hey, Jim, as Jen is looking through it, a couple of injuries. Ramondre Stevenson misses practice with foot injury. A.J. Brown is back with logging full practice. Christian Watson, limited return. Michael Pittman missed time with a back injury. Other than that, Nick Chubb coming back.
I know, Nick Chubb's the one that's been monitoring. Mm-hmm.
Hawkinson, watch for him because a lot of times after this bye week, he'll probably come back. Derek Carr is out. And Zamir White, we're not really looking at him, but he's struggling a little bit, along with Rashid Wright dealing with the foot issue.
You're gonna see a couple of these guys start coming back from the IR, right? Who is it? Cooper Kupp is going to start coming in. You're going to look at Jonathan Brooks is technically able to come back in and start practicing. Nick Chubb, Hawkinson. It'll be interesting to see how that affects some of the players and their performances, and also their team as well too. I think Philadelphia misses their two wide receivers, so I'm sure they'll be glad to have them coming back as well too.
Was it D'Angelo Williams?
No. He ran a lot.
Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams.
I thought it was Jonathan Stewart.
And then the other one that it could have been was Mike Tolbert. Remember
No,
Mike Tolbert? He's
I think
a
it
bunch
was
of
before
touchdowns.
these guys. Check
Is
before,
he
those,
before
guys.
those guys.
Like mid-90s. No, Natron Mead. No, was it Natron Mead?
I'm looking at the full list, and I'm doing it by touchdowns. You had Steven Davis, and I'm looking it up by, and then Deshaun Foster. Deshaun Foster didn't have that many touchdowns. That's the issue. Man, Christian McCaffrey. Can you believe they had Christian McCaffrey? That's so funny.
Do you guys think Christian McCaffrey should be coming back in week 8? What is that, 2 more weeks?
Yeah.
That's what he says, right? To be honest, if I were him, I'd sit out for a little bit. Just use Jordan Mason.
That's another, and that's another guy. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey, I have him in one league, and
Jed, I was just thinking about it. There are some Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill. Those top 4 or 5 players. If you drafted them when you draft them that high, you're expecting them to produce. They have not done well, and the worst is trying to put them on the bench. Yep. And then they're taking up a bench spot for you as well, too.
Yep.
Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce is one of those guys, right? If you look at the top wide receivers, right? Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Jaden Reed, CeeDee Lamb, most of those guys you could have gotten in the second pick.
Well, and the tight ends this year have just completely flipped. The tight end rankings is just going to be totally different. It's like the standards you had with Kelce, Mark Andrews, they're no longer up to
I don't even think
Kills.
I don't know what's going on with Mark Andrews. They don't even try anymore with Mark Andrews, right? Isaiah Likely at least had 2 touchdowns. Either he's really injured, but I don't think he is, because he's still out there running routes. They just don't try anymore with that guy.
The only saving grace they had this week is he did have a long touchdown. No, long in the sense that 16 yards, but still, at least he got something. Which, by the way, we're still talking about this, the Carolina Panthers. It was Mike Tolbert.
That's what I said, Mike Tolbert. Yeah, Mike Tolbert. He had 14 touchdowns.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you a quick question. Here is one of my. I have a dilemma as well too. This is one of my my lineup for our other league that Jimmy and I are in. This is a very good lineup. Kyler Murray, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, and Puka Nacua sitting there. But I have 3 tight ends. Who would you keep out of the 3? Tyler Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, or Tucker Kraft? I would like to trade 2 of them. Who would you keep?
I'd keep Laporta.
Yeah, I keep Laporta. Yeah. I think you can trade Hawkinson and Kraft. I would try to trade Kraft right now, only because he's scored touchdowns. There's some good. He's done some good production.
Or Tommy, if you want to gamble, you keep Hawkinson. You hope that he's going to pick up with Minnesota, and Minnesota's going to stay hot. They're going to keep using him. And you trade Laporta because Laporta has the best name of the 3, and you should be able to get the most for Laporta. If you try to trade Kraft or Hawkinson, you're not going to be able to get. What are you trying to trade for? A wide receiver or a running back? What are you trading for?
I would like to upgrade my running back because Chuba Hubbard's on my team. Eventually, I think he will decrease in value. So I'm trying to package him with Hubbard and a tight end.
Yeah. So if you look at your team, Hubbard and ETN, your running back position is your weak point, because ETN might start giving away opportunities more and more to Tank Bigsby. I wouldn't. If tomorrow you said Bigsby was the number 1 running back, I would not be surprised. And Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks is right there coming up off the IR here soon. And I think he could potentially supplant him as the number 1 running back as well, too.
You shouldn't have a problem, though, Tommy, because tight end so many teams are tight end hungry. You should be able to find a team that's, putting in some terrible tight end and just offer that.
Yeah, Jed, Jimmy and I are in that same league. Here's the one thing that annoys me about this league. And our guys that play in this league, not only do not like trading, they don't respond. So it just sits there as a transaction. So you're sitting there, are they accepting it? Are they not accepting it? So there's only a couple of people that like trading, but the other guys, like for instance, our friend Jalen, I am trying to convince him to trade Devontae Adams. I said, look, I'll give you a couple players. You're in last place. Just give me Devontae Adams. I'll give you 3 good players. So we're working on that trade right now.
That's an interesting trade. I mean, Devontae Adams is definitely a game changer. The guy still has so much talent. If he really does land with the Jets, you would think that's going to be a huge.
Well, is that why
change.
You keep asking me for Nico Collins? Because I know you want Nico Collins pretty bad, right?
I want anyone who is sitting in IR right now. If I have my choice, I am making a play for Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, Nick Chubbs. I don't believe that it'll do well. Puka Nakua, I got Tyler Hawkinson. I just want all these injured players. Probably not Christian McCaffrey, and I want them to do well. That's what I want.
He wants what he's trying to do. He wants a super team going to the playoffs, so that he can destroy everybody right off. That's what he's
great.
looking for.
That's great. It's a good strategy. It works.
Yeah, I want that super team. And I want people who are not paying attention to sit there. Oh yeah, here. So you get Chuba Hubbard. You're not thinking long term. You're not realizing that Chuba Hubbard has only a short time span before he no longer is good.
Trying to keep him from creating that super team.
That's okay. If it works, it works, man. That's a good strategy.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, the one person who's done well for me, Brian Thomas. Have you guys been watching him?
Yeah. Thomas is actually pretty good. Yeah.
No, you guys know I traded for Terry McLaurin because I think Washington is really on the up and up. Like this team is, remember, we were expecting them to be good. It just took them a few games. So the first 2-3 games of the season, they didn't really look that great. But now Jalen Daniels is turning things around. McLaurin is the best wide receiver there. Brian has been good and out of the backfield. So I really like any of the skill players there.
Oh, Jen, Brian Thomas for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I thought you were talking about
Brian. Yeah. Thomas.
Robinson.
Robinson is good too. Robinson's a good runner. He's been scoring 2 touchdowns in the last game. Brian Thomas, double digits in the last 3 games. He's clearly the number 1 receiver there, right? Christian Kirk is maybe number 2. The only problem is you would want Trevor Lawrence to be a better quarterback, but Lawrence is the reason why they're losing so many of these games because he keeps making bad decisions. That's the reason why they keep losing those games.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree then on that because I don't like Jacksonville at all. Like I think to me, we gave them kept waiting for them to turn things around. Like, yes, they looked better this past weekend, but that is a team that I don't know. I don't know that I see anything there. Although I did start Christian Kirk just out of, just for you, Tommy. I started him and he did okay.
Yeah, but remember, this week they're playing a very, very tough Bears defense. So I don't anticipate them to do very much at all from run, pass, the secondary for the Bears. I mean, look, Caleb Williams is doing great. He's doing really well. Roma Dunze is still struggling a little bit. And Keenan Allen has been non-existent, but still the defense has been outstanding.
I do think with the Bears this week, though, I could see Keenan Allen having a pretty decent game. Keenan Allen is too good not to have a good game. I could see him having a good couple games here. And I think this is one of those games where you want a Keenan Allen to shine. Yeah. Okay, so who's the starting? Who do you guys think is the starting running back for Jacksonville? Are you going to place your bets on Tank Bigsby? Or
I don't think it matters who starts. I think Bigsby is going to ultimately outproduce ETN. So Bigsby is the guy that I would, if I was starting on my team, that's who I'd.
Yeah, and seriously, if you have a name like Tank Bigsby, I mean, that's a great name as well, too. ETN, I think, with the shoulder injury, but Tank Bigsby just seems to just do really, really well. And I enjoy watching Tank.
Remember how good ETN was for Ohio State? I remember they kept calling that guy name all that. Oh, speaking of which, did you see that Vanderbilt beat Alabama this past week?
Oh, yeah, that was a great game.
And then he tweeted immediately after the game for NIL endorsements, call my agent at this number.
Yeah, that was smart. That was a great game, by the way, and you could have made a lot of money. So at one point, at one point, the odds were easily in the plus 4,500. So I mean, just huge odds that you could have picked up.
Or even there were a lot of upsets. Even Tennessee lost this past week. So if you were, let's just say you placed a bet on Tennessee and Vanderbilt, those are some good odds that you end up winning. So
yeah. All right, let's summarize then. Parlay bets. If you were looking at it, are you looking for the passing game for DK Metcalf? This I'm assuming, hearing from you guys, less of the running back. Jimmy likes Kenneth Walker. Jed and I like DK Metcalf, and we do enjoy a Jordan Mason as well too.
Yeah, my 3-pick parlay is exactly that. Metcalf for a touchdown, Jordan Mason for a touchdown, 49ers to win. I think you can, if you like doing, I know you guys have started doing the like number of yards, like number of yards passed, number of yards received.
Do you feel like that's too complicated?
No, I think it's smart. Like, see, those kind of bets, it's the informed bettor is going to do better at those kinds of things, because your average bettor is not going to go down and get those. So I do like those. It just takes more time. You got to do a little bit of research to do those.
Yeah. Do you think Brock Purdy will have a pretty decent game? I still expect, like I think I said, San Francisco's going to have to come out strong in this game after this loss to Arizona. I think they're going to be throwing the ball. I think they're going to feed this ball to Jordan Mason. I do think they're going to come out as a win. But I do think, I think Kenneth Walker is going to have a pretty good game as well, too.
Yeah. I would probably argue Geno Smith will have more yardage than Mason. And I think a lot of times Seattle will air it out, but ultimately San Francisco will come out with the win tonight.
Yeah, I just hope it's going to be a good game. Last week was a pretty good Thursday night football game.
It was.
So I do think that, this has a potential of having actually a pretty entertaining, good game as well, too.
It is kind of fun, I'll say, making bets where you're not betting on who's going to win. That is kind of interesting, because then it takes out that element, and so you can still cheer either way, but then you just want certain players to do well. So that's been an interesting change.
Now, the one person who will be coming back from his concussion that I will put all my bets on, Malik Neighbors. When Malik Neighbors plays, you just know they're just going to feed him the ball all the time.
Yeah, actually, one of the players I did not think about last week was the Chicago Bears revenge game. I did not think about DJ Moore having such a good game. And I was like, missed out on that one, because I should have known DJ Moore would have wanted to score at least one touchdown against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. More so, Jim, I think a lot of times, less is a revenge game. I just knew that eventually DJ Moore was going to get his catches. For the last couple of games, he kept saying, we got to get the ball more. We got to get the ball more to DJ Moore. He eventually had to get the ball. So, and against a bad defense, this was the best time to do it.
Yeah. So you guys think the Bears are going to be able to beat the Jaguars this week in London?
The Bears are only 2.5-point favorites, so that's kind of interesting. Although it's, like you said, it's in London, so you could argue that's neutral territory. So it sounds like then maybe, it sounds like Vegas is saying that they think the Bears are going to win. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Hey, can we talk a little bit about NBA fantasy basketball? We got draft for our basketball team and all that stuff. Which players are you liking as well too? Giannis has actually gone down a little bit. Shea Alexander has gone up, but Giannis has gone down. But your number one, is it Jokic or Wembanyama? Who would you pick?
Well, you guys know I spent my entire budget on Wembanyama, so as long as I got him, I'm good.
Yeah. But I do enjoy my Jokic. I do enjoy Doncic, all of those things. And Giannis, don't sleep on him. I think I still really think that Giannis would do well.
Well, my two things, I want to see the trade of Karl Anthony Towns to New York. I want to see how that plays out. It's an interesting trade. Just want to see. But then also our big man, Zach Edey down in New York. Although I heard that, did Ja Morant get hurt? Like, as long as Ja Morant...
Yes, he did. He did.
He did. Because I wanted to see the Ja Morant to Zach Edey connection and see. I want to see if Zach Edey can really translate to the NBA. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, Ja Morant is coming back from injury. It is the guy who's hurt is Jaren Jackson is hurt once again. Mm-hmm. And so now it's a mild hamstring and he should be back, but still, a lot of times that's your concern with Jaren Jackson. Jed, the guy that I really am looking at, Gobert, especially with Cat gone. If you pick him up, he will get you shot blocks and rebounds. You just don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. So, Jed, I've been reading a number of articles I'm looking at. One right now where they said Zach Edey is the potential breakout for this year. And you can get him pretty good. So
yeah.
The guys I like a Sabonis from Sacramento, Anthony Edwards from Minnesota, especially now that Karl Anthony Towns isn't going to be there. I like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those are the types of guys I like, the all-around players as well, too.
Oh, also, the rookie in Chicago. There are a lot of good reports coming out of this rookie. I have no idea what his name is. But
I know who you're
guy,
talking about.
the white guy in Chicago that we drafted first. Apparently, a lot of people think he's the real deal. So that could be really fun to watch.
Buzelis.
Yes,
Buzelis.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Chicago, Lonzo Ball once again is out, but this time with COVID.
You know what? Here's my thing. I hope with the Bulls, I hope that they're just going to trade Zach LaVine, pick up some decent assets out of it, try to figure out how to rebuild off of some of these younger players, get rid of Lonzo Ball. But it's time to get rid of that. The only person that I can see them wanting to keep is Vujacic. Like, I'm okay about them keeping him. I wish that actually they would have just kept DeMar DeRozan because they didn't get anything for that guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Here we are. I mean, I'm looking forward to week 6 here. And let's see what happens. Any lasting thoughts?
No, good luck. This is, again, things now. If you are in pole position, so if you are in the playoffs, let's say you're in the top 4, the things you need to be doing now is cleaning up. So you've got your core running back players, wide receivers. You need to clean up your bench. Be really paying attention to your bench, planning for the second half. If you are in the bottom half of your league, now is when you need to start swinging for the fences, like Tommy was saying. Like, go for those big trades that you're just taking a chance and looking for someone to come back from injury or looking for some team to turn it around. But next week 6, this is a critical time to make those decisions because now you're starting to run out of time.
Yeah. If your team stinks right now, consider trading your superstar for 3 or 4 players and taking a risk, especially some of those guys who are coming back from injury. And so, or even like a Tank Bigsby or someone like that who could potentially be your starting running back and then step into the playoffs and do well. That's really what.
No,
go
you're right.
Tyler Hawkinson, Bigsby, go for a Puka Nacua, something. Go trade for a Christian McCaffrey for all I care. Because if they hit, you'll do well.
No, you're right. Because we're on week 6. We've got another 8 more weeks to go. You still have not a big chance, but you still have a chance to be able to make it into the playoffs. Just squeak into the playoffs. And you never know what's going to happen depending on who's doing well and not, right? And so just trying to make the playoffs. But for instance, like if you have a Jaden Daniels or if you have a quarterback right there, go after 2 or 3 decent players and get rid of the superstar.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. See you soon.
Sounds good.